Hello and welcome to this episode of the Women in Streaming Media Education Podcast, recorded here at IBC. And we're very grateful for all of the people that have made this happen, to IBC itself and Rise Academy for providing student and equipment to be able to actually produce this. And I am very happy to welcome my final guest, actually, Maria Ingold. Maria, thank you for coming on the podcast. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do before we dive into what you're currently doing, which I find super interesting?
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I've been working in media technology a long time. Everything from like the beginning of multimedia and computer games to I'm the former CTO of a Disney-Sony joint venture, so I built one of the early video-on-demand streaming services. And I've been in a global role doing solution engineering, so looking across the whole industry. And with this whole perspective, I was thinking, AI is happening now, so what are all the things that are happening in AI? I wanted to make sense of it. So I went back to do a Master's of Science in Artificial Intelligence, and that's where the story comes in.
Exactly. And although we did meet a while ago, I think we met just as you were about to embark on this. And I didn't believe how long you'd been working in the industry, actually. And I asked you what your secret to your skin was.
Oh, yeah.
You told me it's rosehip oil.
It is rosehip oil. Oh, my gosh. It's amazing.
That is why Maria has such amazing skin.
Hi.
And I have now purchased it.
Welcome to your future.
Back to the content. So, you talked a little bit about that point where you thought, I need to look into this. What else kind of led you to that point? What that you needed to embrace AI and actually delve into this in the form of a master's?
Yeah, so I have always been an innovator, always at the beginning of everything, and that's what I love. So when the United Nations Development Program asked me to do a talk on the impact of technology on storytelling, it was around the time when you could start talking to an AI. And I thought, if I'm going to talk about AI, I can talk with an AI. And I thought it was so interesting. I thought, this is the cat is out of the bag. It's not going back in. I really want to see where this is going. I love doing public speaking. I love making technology easy for people to understand. And so I thought, I need to dive more deeply. So I'm going to do a Master's of Science in Artificial Intelligence. And I'm going to look into what are all the product use cases that are possible using AI in media? And by AI, I mean AI as a bucket. So it includes machine learning and deep learning and generative AI.
And what you're kind of looking at is a kind of common understanding of where we're at, really, isn't it? Why is there no common definition of where we're at?
Because it's really hard to pull all this together, right? Yeah. There's a lot of manual work you have to do. So that common definition is referred to in academia as a taxonomy. And that essentially means that I'm taking sort of what are the categories, subcategories, and use cases. And then we create a foundation for all future academic research, because right now they're basing it on the old film value chain, so celluloid, a film print, right? And I started looking at it and thinking, this is going to be much broader than that. I'm looking at create, enrich, deliver, and engage through this whole process.
Which I find really fascinating. What does that kind of look like in practice? Because when we often use these kind of really theoretical words around this, but actually, this is coding you've been doing to kind of pull this together.
Absolutely. So it's coding, but one of the reasons why we need this is, one, there's no foundation for academic research, but there's also no way to talk about what we're doing in AI and media, right? Because everybody's doing something internally. We're actually all doing a lot of similar things, but people will go faster in the evolution of how they think about AI when we can collaborate about AI. So actually, AI is bringing people together. because we have to talk about it, but we can't talk about what's private. We can only talk about what's public. So I'm pulling together public data on what companies are using AI, what products are they developing, what are the product use cases for that, abstracting it up to a broader subcategory so I can talk about it in more detail. But had to do so much with data processing ahead of time. And everybody who says data is important, oh my gosh, it is so important. And then I'm going through and I'm using a large language model. I've created a taxonomy. I'm teaching it how to do that categorization. And then I'm using retrieval augmented generation with having done indexing of the data and embeddings so that I can actually search on what I've put together, and that starts beginning to create an RFP structure. So vendors who are creating products can actually reach people, operators who want to be solving problems, who are looking for new revenue opportunities, looking to save money, all of that. It starts pulling all of this together holistically.
I thought that categorization process was really, really interesting. I feel like we need a diagram, and we don't have a whiteboard here. But I wondered if you could kind of give us a little bit of an overview of what that actually looks like.
Yes, so my categories are create, enrich, deliver, and engage. I'm focusing very specifically on production, broadcast, and streaming. So I'm not trying to solve this for all of media and entertainment. This is for us, for our world, the kind of people who are at IBC, right? This is for us. And then I'm looking at, so if creation is about the production process, enrichment is about that sort of media asset management, content management side of things. Delivery is then more about looking at encoding, maybe that CDN delivery, adding advertising. It's that live piece as well, right? And then enrichment, it can be that lean in or lean back experience, but it's the user experience. And that includes everything from content discovery through to shopification, through to the analytics about that whole process. And even if you're like a telco or something and you want to use some form of chat in order to help do customer support, or if you're a computer game and you want to have a non-player character using chat. So there's so many different aspects of that, and then I'm drilling down into the detail of all those products, which gives me the ability to compare and contrast. So as we move forward into the future, I can identify where things are oversaturated, where there are product gaps, and where there are opportunities.
One of the things I think is really interesting about doing masters or
going back to school after all this, I don't know what I was thinking, but
no. But what I was going to say was, initially I was like, "Oh, will this be hard to explain without a diagram?" But because you literally live and breathe your research when you're going through something like that,
yes,
you explain that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you so
without
much.
the diagram,
with visuals for anybody who's actually watching this as well. But if it's just audio, then they'll be fine too.
Yeah. So encouraging people to go and do a master's now. So the taxonomy you're creating, then you kind of started to touch on it there. But what's your kind of goal? What are you hoping that will provide industry with? You mentioned the kind of RFP side of things.
Absolutely,
What else does that look like for you?
So the other side of it is that if we start having like an AI forum somewhere we can publicly discuss public information, we can move ahead much more quickly. So with AI, it moves really fast now, right? You can't keep up with it as just one individual anymore. You genuinely have to collaborate because it's complicated. It's very deep. There's so many different aspects to it. But if I can start simplifying and saying, and I've currently got 155 use cases and I'm not done, right? I'm only just starting to build this system. But that when you start looking at all those use cases and you start looking at what the public information is around that, you can start having discussions about what's happening publicly, so you don't have to talk about what you're doing privately that might be confidential. And we're all trying to solve similar things and going through similar problems. And there's a lot of stuff that's published out there, and I can even do stuff in different languages now as well, which is great. Just pull in lots of different data to be able to talk through. So I think that piece alone is a real game changer, to be able to communicate and share and find opportunities. It then matches vendors, so it's a great matchmaking thing, to match vendors who have those products to people who are genuinely trying to solve problems. Because you shouldn't just do AI, right? It's like, hey, let's do AI. No. Let's solve something or create an opportunity to do something. So let's, by doing a lot of this stuff around localization, for instance, you suddenly open up new markets, but you haven't been able to get into it before because it's cost prohibitive. So it's not necessarily just about the saving money, but it's about the opportunities, and so the revenue generating that's coming out of that. And this morning I was chairing a panel with the CTO of Warner Brothers Discovery and the CTO of ITV. And the number of use cases that we were talking through was amazing. I mean, ITV's doing something like 250 just generative AI use cases, but broader than just across the production, broadcast, and streaming side that I'm covering. And they were saying, and this is really the key point, is just the opportunities that it creates for revenue and things that they can reinvest into creating even more content. And I think that kind of ability to think that through and see what's possible, that's where I'm trying to help.
Oh, I'm trying to work out. So I want to ask you about the challenges.
Oh my gosh.
But before that, I think I just wanted to say that makes what you're creating, it sounds like, will make everything a lot more effective.
Yes.
Because we'll almost be streamlining where we need to go, rather than a little bit of a, let's just give this a go, seems like a nice idea. That matchmaking process and that real data-backed idea should help us actually progress a bit faster as well.
That's the whole thing, right? Is to help, because there's so much, and if you're trying to figure it out on your own from the beginning, I watch other people trying to do what I do, and I'm so much further ahead than they are, and it's such a struggle that people don't understand. So if I can create this, then, like I said, the academic literature has something grounded based on actual product use cases, not just theory to start from. And we as an industry have something that we can actually look at and say, oh my gosh, here's all the actual applications, and it creates a great foundation to start from.
But back to those challenges. What are the challenges then? Apart from this being
in me trying to put this together? Oh my gosh, it's just... So in putting all of this together, I've had to look at so much detail, and there's so much manual processing before I can start getting to that lovely automatic side of using a large language model, right? So firstly, having to put all that together. Secondly, there's a level of precision that is required for a large language model to do a good job at guessing where a product should fit, and then being able to sort of answer useful questions requires some level of data, right? So again, it's about having that good quality data and also building a taxonomy that's really useful. But I'm also having to teach the LLM, so this is the next piece, how to predict new use cases based on new products that I haven't categorized into those 155 categories.
Because you're doing this manually currently.
Right. So I did an initial test so I've got about 400 companies where I started from, and it'll be more than that by now, right? And so these are all companies that are enterprise in our business, in production, broadcast and streaming, not just sort of, hey, we do this thing that does something for user-generated content over here, which is something that we're not focusing on, right? So I'm trying to really focus on our industry. I've taken 50 initial products and categorized about 100 different use cases so far, and then done more. I've been looking around. I've spoken so much at these conferences. I've spoken about 20 times on AI and media, but I've also listened. So as anybody who follows me on LinkedIn will realize I live post whenever I'm at something. So I try to get to as many AI things as possible, really listen to see where people are focusing. And then I've taken some things out of the academic research, but I really want to ground it in what's really happening on the product side. And so this is kind of my initial test set, so I can test to see how the LLM is doing. But then I have to kind of set it free and then do some manual
Which is always
checks.
the scary bit.
Right. And then build in other human interaction points where it can suggest new things, can validate that, and then extend that taxonomy. Because the taxonomy is never done. It never stops. It's not static. It changes. It grows. But at least then we have a foundation to start from. And that means we have an ability to compare and contrast into our future as well against something that's standard. So we can see where we're going.
So obviously we are focusing on media. Your research and what you're creating is focusing on media. But as we are continually told, AI is everywhere. It's in everything. We're doing it with everything. So what you're doing, could that therefore be reused for other places? What could that look like?
Yeah, so this process that I'm putting together for AI in media, one, I can extend it more broadly across media products. So I could categorize, gosh forbid, everything across our industry, right? And then that creates a whole sort of RFP framework, a matchmaking system of everything. But it can also be applied to other industries. So what you need, though, is somebody who's a subject matter expert or a group of subject matter experts who really understand it, but I can come up with a system for how this should be done going forwards.
And finally...
Oh, no, finally?
Yeah, I know. That's gone really fast.
Right.
But I think, when we've had our conversations before about this, we've been talking heavily about what you're doing. But being here, I know we've been here for a day. Mm-hmm. What are you feeling the movement is and your work that you're creating? How do you see that fitting currently into what people are saying here?
Well, I think because I was chairing that panel this morning and they were talking about all these use cases, I'm like, yeah, I know these use cases, right? And it's having that big picture, but other people were saying to me how new this all is to them. And this could really help move people forward faster, which I think is, given the pace of change, it's really important that people are allowed to focus on where their expertise is and get to that. But the other thing is, as we sit here in Hall 14, it is full of AI companies, right? And it is really interesting to see what I would say is a dedicated space to this. Now, it doesn't mean that this is the only place with AI, because so many companies here now have AI products. But to see some of those companies that are really specifically focusing, it's definitely showing more of a maturity of the industry than what I've seen here in previous years.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even in the few conversations I've had so far, because it's literally day one, it feels like we have moved from very theoretical and quite doom-led.
It's not, and it's not a proof of concept. And you're right, it's not doom-led anymore, right?
It's practical applications and quite positive. And actually, I'm enjoying the positive conversations that we're having.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that it's freeing up opportunities to be more creative. And for me, that's super essential and really key to our future.
Love that. I think we might actually just end on that line there, because that was so perfect.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining me, Maria. It's been great to have you on.